That ring wasn't mine, and somehow, I knew it never was. That's the sentence that has lived in my head ever since that afternoon. The moment, everything I believed about my marriage cracked like thin glass beneath my feet. I remember sitting in my husband David's car, the weak winter sunlight sliding through the windshield, warming only half my face. It was one of those cold, quiet days where the world feels heavy but harmless. Funny how betrayal always hides in days like that, ordinary days, when you least expect to have your heart split open. I wasn't even supposed to drive his car. My own car had refused to start that morning, coughing like an old smoker and then dying flat. David had already left for work, so I called him, hoping he was still nearby. He wasn't, but his voice was warm. Too warm, maybe, now that I look back. "Baby, just take mine," he said. "Keys are in the drawer. I'll Uber today. No big deal. No big deal." That's what he always said, like nothing in life was ever serious enough to question. I pulled the car out of the driveway slowly, letting the engine settle into a low hum. The air smelled like the pine-scented freshener David always bought in bulk. The radio still had his favorite podcast on something about home renovation and DIY. I smiled a little, thinking about how he always dreamed of flipping houses, even though he hated getting his hands dirty. My gloves snagged on something when I reached for the heating controls, a sharp little corner inside the glove compartment. I frowned and tugged the drawer open. Receipts, old insurance cards, a granola bar, normal things. And then something small and white caught my eye, a glossy box, the size of a jewelry box. At first, I didn't think anything of it. Maybe it was trash. Maybe it was from a work gift, or something he bought for his sister. But curiosity has sharp teeth. It bites quietly, until you bleed. I pulled it out. It was heavier than it looked. A new velvet jewelry box, no scratches, no fingerprints, as if it had just been picked up that morning. I opened it. My breath didn't leave my body gently. It punched its way out. Inside was a wedding band, a classic, elegant gold band, polished to a shine so clean it looked untouched. But it wasn't mine. I stared at it, a buzzing sound filling my ears. A wedding ring, a new wedding ring, in my husband's car. For a full minute, I just sat there, hands trembling on the steering wheel, trying to make sense of the absurdity. Maybe it was a gift. Maybe he bought it for me. Maybe he wanted to surprise me, renew our vows, something romantic. But then why was it hidden in the glove compartment? Why? No note, no receipt. Why wasn't it my size? Why was it a completely different style from the rings I've ever worn? My fingertips brushed the metal. It was cold. And I knew without knowing how that something was wrong, very wrong. I closed the box and shoved it back into the compartment. I didn't want to touch it anymore. It felt contaminated, not physically, but emotionally. Like holding it would stain me with something I wasn't ready to face. I told myself to breathe, to focus, to get to work, like nothing was wrong. But my hands were shaking so hard I had to pull over 3 streets down. That was the moment my life split into before and after. Before, when I believed my marriage was imperfect but loyal. After, when I realized loyalty is just another word people like David say to keep you believing. Welcome to her untold journey. If emotional, real-life stories touch your heart, you're in the right place. Subscribe and hit the bell icon so you never miss a story. Your support keeps this journey alive. Normal life before the fall, before that ring. I would have described my life as stable, not magical, not miserable, simply stable. The kind of life where you know exactly what you'll have for dinner on Wednesday, because it's always the same. David and I had been married for 11 years. We lived in a quiet cul-de-sac, the kind where neighbors wave while collecting their mail, but never ask real questions. Our house was a small 2-story with beige siding and a porch swing that we rarely used. David worked in sales. I worked as a bookkeeper for a small dental office 3 towns away. Our schedules were routine, predictable, comforting. We didn't have children, not by choice, not by unwillingness. Life just didn't give us that gift. For years, the silence of childlessness echoed through our house. And slowly, David and I built our routines around it. He worked late. I read a lot. We watched cooking shows together when we could. We vacationed once a year. We argued sometimes about bills, the thermostat, whether to fix the garage door this month or next. But nothing that felt marriage-breaking. Even the mornings leading up to that day, everything seemed normal. David kissed my forehead before leaving. He always did that. Instead of kissing my lips, he said, "Love you," in that distracted way of his, already pulling on his jacket. He grabbed his travel mug, the one with the dent from dropping it years ago, and I believed I knew him. Looking back, I realize love makes you overlook more than you should. It blurs the edges of truth. That day, after finding the ring, when I finally arrived at work, I stepped into the break room like I was underwater. People were laughing, microwaving lunches, talking about the weather. Everything felt far away. "Hey, you okay?" my coworker Linda asked. I nodded, lied, said I didn't sleep well. She didn't push. People rarely do. The ring sat in my mind, all the silent, golden, accusing. I tried to rationalize it, tried to soften the fear. Maybe he bought it for someone at work, as a favor. Maybe someone else left it. Maybe, but deep inside, where the gut never lies, a small voice whispered, "This is the beginning. The truth is coming, and it's not kind." When I drove home that evening, the sun was setting, a deep orange smear across the sky. I parked David's car in the driveway and sat there, staring at our front door, feeling like a stranger about to walk into somebody else's home. I hadn't confronted him yet. I wasn't ready, but I knew I had to. Soon, because lies grow fast. And this lie had roots deeper than I imagined. I've learned that life doesn't fall apart all at once. Sometimes, it shatters quietly, in the most ordinary moments. For me, it happened on a Tuesday afternoon. I was sitting in my husband Ethan's SUV, waiting for him to come out of the dentist's office. He'd insisted I drive him because he expected to feel woozy after the procedure. I didn't mind. That's what wives do, right? We show up. We help. We stay. The car smelled faintly of his aftershave, clean, sharp, familiar. I remember tapping my fingers on the steering wheel, humming along to the radio, bored and half thinking about dinner plans, and then my eyes drifted down to something glinting in the cup holder. At first, I didn't understand what I was looking at. I thought maybe it was a coin or a lost earring, but when I reached for it slowly, my fingers touched something cold, metallic, circular, a ring, a woman's wedding ring. My heart stalled, just stopped. I lifted it by the edge, like it might burn me. It wasn't mine. God, it wasn't even close to mine. Mine was simple, a thin gold band Ethan and I picked together before our courthouse wedding. This ring, this one, was different, thicker, heavier, white gold. 3 small diamonds set neatly across the band. The kind of ring chosen by a woman who cared about appearances, a woman who expected to be cared for. My throat tightened as I rolled it over in my palm. Size 6, maybe 7, my size. I felt the first drop of something hot prick my eyes. For a moment, my brain tried to offer excuses. Maybe it belonged to his coworker. Maybe someone dropped it during carpool. Maybe Ethan found it and forgot to tell me. But the truth rose up in my chest like a scream I couldn't release. A wedding ring does not accidentally end up in your husband's car, especially not in the cup holder, the place he touches every single day. My hand started shaking. That's when I noticed something else. Inside the ring, engraved faintly, were 2 initials, E plus Ethan's. Name began with E and mine didn't. I felt the air leave my lungs. Everything around me blurred, the dashboard, the parking lot, the sound of cars passing outside. My mind was spinning so fast it felt like I was falling out of my own body. My Ethan, my husband, the man who kissed my forehead every morning, the man who said, "You're my home, Claire," the man who held my hand through my anxiety attacks. He had someone else's ring in his car. I stared at the initials etched inside, and for a moment, I felt nothing but numbness, like my emotions had fled my body to escape the truth before it crushed me. I looked toward the dentist's office door. Any minute now, he'd walk out, he'd smile, he'd say, "Thanks for waiting, babe." He'd kiss my cheek, and I'd know that kiss wasn't mine alone. My fingers closed tightly around the ring. I felt its sharp edges dig into my skin, grounding me, telling me this wasn't a nightmare. The sky outside had darkened with thick clouds, though it was barely afternoon. My chest felt the same, heavy, storm-filled. I heard footsteps, quick, familiar. Ethan was walking toward the car. I panicked. I didn't know what to do. Hide the ring, leave it where it was, confront him the moment he opened the door. My thoughts tangled like thorny vines. He reached the passenger side, pulled the handle, slid into the seat, and let out a soft groan. "God, my mouth feels weird," he mumbled, touching his jaw. I stared straight ahead, silent, rigid. My fist was still clenched, the ring digging into my palm like a secret screaming to be exposed. He noticed. "You okay?" he asked, leaning slightly toward me. "You look pale." I swallowed hard, feeling my entire life tilting off its axis. "Ethan," I whispered. My voice was shaky, unsteady. "I found something." His eyes narrowed, confused. "What do you mean?" I slowly opened my palm. The ring gleamed under the gray sky. Ethan's face changed, just a flicker, but I saw it. A tightening of his jaw, a quick shift in his breathing, a flash of something he tried to hide: fear, guilt, recognition. "Where did you get that?" he asked, too quickly. "In your cup holder," I said, "right where you left it." His mouth parted, but no sound came out. For a moment, the world around us froze. Cars kept moving, people kept walking, but inside that SUV, nothing moved. Nothing breathed. It was just the three of us. Me, Ethan, and the ring. "Whose is it?" I forced the words out, though they tasted like blood. He blinked, swallowed, opened his mouth again, and that was when I knew, long before he said a single word, that my marriage was no longer what I thought it was. That ring, those initials, his expression, it all pointed to one terrifying truth. Ethan had been living a life I knew nothing about, and I wasn't sure I wanted to hear the rest. Ethan stared at the ring like it was a bomb ticking between us. His jaw clenched once, twice. Then he tore his eyes away and looked out the window, like maybe the answer he needed was somewhere in the parking lot. I felt my heart thudding against my ribs, each beat sharper than the last. "Ethan," I whispered again, "I'm asking you something. Whose ring is this?" He exhaled a slow, shaky breath, then rubbed the bridge of his nose. "It's not what you think." The oldest line in the book, the one cheaters memorize before they even cheat. Off my stomach twisted. "Then what is it?" I pressed. He finally met my eyes, but the softness I'd known for years wasn't there. Instead, I saw calculation, panic, and something like annoyance, like I'd interrupted a plan he was trying to keep together. "It's complicated," he said. "Complicated." My voice cracked. "A wedding ring is in your cup holder with someone else's initials engraved in it. That's not complicated, Ethan. That's clear." He looked away again, jaw tightening. The silence between us stretched like barbed wire. After what felt like a full minute, he finally spoke. "It belongs to a coworker." I almost laughed, but it came out as a broken sound. "A coworker," I repeated. "What coworker signs her initials inside her wedding ring and leaves it in your car?" He hesitated, and that hesitation was louder than any confession. My hands were trembling, but I forced myself to stay still. I knew if I moved even a little, I might break apart right there. He shifted in his seat. "The ring belongs to someone from work. Her name is," he swallowed, "Samantha." The name felt like ice water running down my spine. The initial inside the band. My voice came out small, soft, barely mine. "Why was her wedding ring in your car, Ethan?" He looked out the front windshield like he wished he could drive away from this conversation. She's going through a hard time," he said. "We've talked a few times after work. She was upset last week, crying about her marriage. She took the ring off and what?" My voice was rising now. "Just handed her wedding ring to you." "No," he snapped suddenly. "She left it in the car by accident." "That doesn't even make sense," I said, my breathing uneven. "When did she even get in your car?"
He stilled. The air between us became unbearably thick. "Ethan," I whispered, "look at me." He didn't. I felt my chest tighten in a way that scared me, like something inside was tearing slowly, carefully, so I'd feel every inch of the wreckage. "Did you give her a ride?" I asked. "Nothing." "Ethan," my voice sharpened, "did you drive her somewhere?" "Yes," he said finally, soft, cornered. I dropped her home a couple of times." A couple of times. My vision blurred for a second. "And you didn't tell me?" I asked. "It wasn't important," he muttered. "Not important." Another knife. I placed the ring back into the cup holder, slowly, carefully, the way you set down a loaded gun. "You've been driving another woman home?" I said, my voice trembling. "And she takes off her wedding ring in your car? Ethan, what exactly are you not telling me?" He finally turned to me. His eyes were tired, or guilty, or both. "We're just friends," he said. "It's not like that." "Then what is it?" I whispered. He ran a hand through his hair and pressed his fingers to his temples. "She's having a rough time. Her husband is controlling. She doesn't have many people to talk to. I was just trying to help." "That's a lot of effort for someone who's just a coworker," I said. He flinched. Outside, a gust of wind shook the nearby trees. A storm was coming. I could feel it, both in the sky and inside my chest. "Have you ever told her about me?" I asked. Ethan looked startled. "Of course I have." But he said it too fast, like a child denying he broke a glass. My heart twisted. "Then why did she feel comfortable enough to take off her ring in your car?" My voice cracked. "Why did she feel safe with you, close to you?" He pressed his palm against his forehead. "Claire, please, I'm exhausted. I just had a procedure done. Can we not do this right now?" I stared at him in disbelief. He wasn't trying to explain. He wasn't trying to reassure me. He wasn't even trying to lie well. He was trying to escape. "We have to do this right now," I said quietly, "because the man sitting next to me isn't the man I married." He looked at me with frustration, real frustration, as if I was the problem here, as if my reaction was unreasonable. "You always do this," he muttered. "You jump to the worst conclusion." I felt my body go cold. "I found another woman's wedding ring in your car," I said. "How am I supposed to react, Ethan? Tell me." He didn't answer. He stared at the dashboard, breathing hard, his jaw working like he was chewing on words he didn't want to say. And then, quietly, too quietly, "She needed someone." The words hit me harder than anything he'd said so far. She needed someone. Not me. Not his wife. Not the person who'd held him through every hardship. She needed someone. I felt something inside me collapse, but I kept my voice steady. Barely. "And you decided to be that someone?" I asked. He didn't deny it. He didn't even try. The silence that followed wasn't just silence. It was the sound of my marriage slipping out of my hands. Somewhere in the distance, thunder cracked. Fitting. Because in that moment, I realized something terrifying. This wasn't the beginning of a confession. This was the beginning of a truth I wasn't prepared for. Ethan was hiding more, a lot more. And that ring, that beautiful, polished, engraved ring, was only the first piece of a story I wasn't sure I was strong enough to hear. The next morning, I couldn't sit still. I made coffee, poured it, and left it untouched on the counter. I paced from the living room to the kitchen and back again, like a woman who had misplaced her sanity somewhere between a glove compartment and a late-night lie. Mark came down the stairs wearing his usual navy suit, his tie already knotted perfectly. He looked normal, too normal. "Morning," he said, kissing my cheek like the night before never happened. I stepped back slightly. Not enough to look suspicious, but enough for my skin not to burn from the touch. He didn't notice, or maybe he didn't care. "You're up early," he added. I nodded. Couldn't sleep much. "Big project on your mind?" I swallowed. "Yeah, something like that." He smiled, calm, casual, unbothered, a man who had nothing to hide. But I knew now, he had everything to hide. "Will you be home for dinner tonight?" I asked, pretending to rinse a mug. He adjusted his cufflinks. "Not sure. The Jefferson project is entering final review. I may need to stay late." There it was. The built-in excuse, the ready-made alibi. Okay, I said softly, as if I didn't already know he was lying again. When he left, closing the door gently behind him, the house fell into an uneasy silence, the kind that sits heavy on your chest. I exhaled, long and shaky. And then I grabbed my phone. I didn't call anyone. I didn't text. Instead, I sat at our small dining table, opened the ring box again, and stared at the diamond catching morning sunlight. It sparkled with the clarity of a truth I wasn't ready to face. I knew I needed answers, real ones, not the ones Mark chose to give. So I started where he couldn't manipulate the story, his location history. Mark wasn't tech-savvy. He used the same password for everything and logged into our shared iCloud years ago. He probably forgot. I didn't. With trembling fingers, I logged in. My breath stopped. There, right there in front of me, was the first crack in the reality I thought I lived in. For the past 3 months, Mark had been spending hours at a single address 20 minutes away, a small suburban neighborhood on the other side of town. Not near his office, not near the Jefferson Project, not near anywhere he had reason to be. 3 times a week, every week, for hours. My heart thudded painfully. I clicked on the address. A name popped up. Residence of Claire Holloway. I blinked. Once, twice. Who was Claire? I had never heard that name in my life. I checked the dates, the times. They lined up perfectly with every late night, early meeting, every work emergency. A cold shiver moved down my spine. This wasn't casual cheating. This wasn't flirting or a one-night lapse. This was routine, regular, scheduled, a second life. My throat tightened painfully. I forced myself to keep digging because at that point, I needed the truth more than oxygen. I Googled the address. A listing came up. A 2-bedroom rental home, newly leased. Leased 4 months ago, under Mark Holloway. My hands went numb. My husband had leased a home, a second home, under our last name. He hadn't even bothered hiding that part, legally. Didn't think he needed to. Didn't think I would ever look. Didn't think I would ever doubt him. I covered my mouth with my hand as tears burned my eyes. The wedding ring in the glove compartment suddenly made much more sense. He wasn't hiding a gift for me. He wasn't planning a surprise. He was living a second marital life. My stomach twisted as if I'd swallowed stones. I clicked on more documents, electric bills, lease agreements, package deliveries. Every single one had 2 names listed, Mark Holloway and Claire Holloway. Holloway, my last name, our last name. He had given it to someone else. My breath broke into small, shallow pieces. I pushed my chair back, feeling like the room was spinning. My husband had married someone else, or was pretending to. Either way, he had built a parallel world without me. I felt something break inside me, quiet, sharp, deep. Still, I wasn't done. The truth wasn't done with me yet. I needed to see her. I needed to know who she was, the woman who wore the ring meant for someone else. I searched her name, found her Facebook. Her profile was public. The first thing I saw was her smiling in a soft blue dress holding a bouquet of wildflowers. Caption: "Sometimes love gives you a second chance." My breath caught. In the reflection of her sunglasses, I saw Mark's hand holding hers. Not his face, just his hand. But I knew that hand. I'd held it for 12 years. The betrayal hit me like a wave, cold, suffocating, merciless. I clicked her photos, more flowers, more captions, more second chance references. And then, a picture of 2 rings, hers and another matching beside it. Caption, "Forever starts soon." It was the same ring I found in Mark's car, the same box, the same brand, the same packaging. My vision blurred. I felt my throat tighten to the point of pain. I wasn't crazy. I wasn't paranoid. He had a fiancée, a life partner, another woman he introduced as Mrs. Holloway. I put the phone down, but my hands wouldn't stop shaking. My mind raced wildly. Was he divorced from me on paper somewhere? Was he planning to leave quietly? Was he planning to replace me like I was a phase he outgrew? Or did Claire not know I existed? The thought stung in a different way. At that moment, something inside me shifted. The fear, the confusion, the heartbreak, they all melted into a cold, steady resolve. I needed the truth, all of it, and I needed to hear it not just from documents, but from Mark himself, the man I thought I married, the man who built a second life behind me, the man whose lies were now stacked so high they were beginning to crumble. I wiped my eyes, took a deep breath, and whispered to myself, if he can create 2 lives, I can create 1 truth. And so I made a plan. Not for revenge, not yet, for reality. Because before I could decide what to do with his betrayal, I needed to know, was Claire a victim like me, or was she his accomplice? Only one person had the answers, and I was going to get them, that day, before he had the chance to lie again. Mark's jaw tightened as he stepped toward us, the winter sunlight glinting off his ring, the same one that had nearly shattered me just days before. "You need to listen," he started, his voice trembling slightly. "I've been listening," I said, holding the ring box like evidence of a crime. "Now speak the truth, all of it, no lies, no excuses." Claire stood behind me, eyes wide, silent but steady. She had chosen honesty. Now it was his turn. He sighed, shoulders slumping. "Okay, yes, I lied. I shouldn't have. I didn't mean for it to go this far." I felt a flicker of relief, quickly replaced by rage. "You didn't mean for it to go this far?" I repeated, my voice low and dangerous. "Mark, you have been living a secret life, leasing a second home, engaged to another woman. This is the farthest anyone could go." He looked at me, guilt and fear etched into his features. "I thought I could, I don't know, fix things later." "You thought you could fix things later?" I echoed, my hands trembling, "while you were destroying the lives of 2 women who trusted you?" Mark faltered. The words he had rehearsed for months failed him now. I didn't plan for you to find out this way," he mumbled. "You didn't plan for me to find out at all," I shot back, "and now everyone will." I could see it in his eyes, panic, not just because of me, but because of the inevitable exposure. I took a deep breath and made a decision. "I'm not going to keep this private anymore," I said calmly. "This isn't just about us. This is about the people you've lied to. Friends, family, colleagues. They need to know who you are." Mark's face paled. "Claire, please don't." "I will," I interrupted, "and Claire here will confirm everything. She's a victim too, Mark, not your accomplice." Claire stepped forward, voice trembling but strong. "He lied to me too. I didn't know he was married. I trusted him, and now I know why." Mark's knees almost buckled. I could see the weight of his deception pressing down on him. We didn't speak another word. I called a few friends and family members, showing them the evidence, the lease, the ring, the photos. It wasn't revenge, it was truth. By the end of the day, the community knew. His lies unraveled faster than he could imagine. Even at work, people looked at him differently. The charm he had relied on, the smile he used to deflect suspicion, evaporated. Colleagues whispered, friends questioned. He couldn't hide behind anyone anymore. And the ring? I returned it to him, but not gently. I handed it back with a glare he would never forget. "This isn't yours to wear," I said softly. "Not for me, not for Claire, not for anyone who trusts you." Mark's hands shook as he took it. He had lost control completely. And in that loss, I realized I had regained mine. I left the house that day feeling a strange mixture of heartbreak and liberation. Yes, my husband had betrayed me. Yes, he had built a second life while I believed in our marriage. Yes, the pain was sharp. But I had done something important. I had confronted it. I had exposed it. I had refused to let it fester in silence. Claire and I didn't become instant friends, but we found a mutual understanding. Two women, both deceived, choosing honesty over complicity. The public exposure wasn't cruel. It wasn't meant to humiliate. It was a necessary step for healing, for truth. That night, as I lay in bed, I didn't feel the weight of betrayal crushing me anymore. Instead, I felt the first taste of freedom. The weeks that followed were quieter than I expected. Not peaceful, but quieter, a lull after the storm. Mark didn't contact me much. When he did, it was to ask for things he thought he could still control: the house, bills, appearances. But the power he had over me was gone. The ring in the glove compartment had been the first crack, and I had followed it to the collapse of everything I had trusted. I spent that first week walking through my home, touching the familiar things I had once loved: the worn kitchen table, the couch where we'd binge-watch shows on lazy Sundays, the backyard garden where Mark and I had planted tulips. Each object carried memories. Some made me ache, some made me smile, but none of them could undo the betrayal. I started journaling again, something I had abandoned during the chaos of married life. I wrote every thought, every pang of grief, every moment of disbelief. It helped me process the storm that had passed through my life. I wrote about the ring, the hidden house, the lies, all of it. I wrote about Mark, but not with anger, with clarity. One morning, I found myself standing at my bedroom window, watching sunlight spill across the neighborhood. It was ordinary, normal. I realized that while Mark had stolen truth, he hadn't stolen my life. Not my real life. I still had me. I reached out to Claire a few times after the confrontation. We shared small messages, gentle acknowledgments. Not friendship, not yet, but recognition. We had both been victims, and our experiences were intertwined. There was no bitterness between us, only understanding. Healing didn't mean forgetting. It didn't mean forgiving blindly. It meant reclaiming my life piece by piece. I started volunteering at the local women's shelter again, something I had left behind when I had gotten busy with family life. Helping women who had been betrayed, deceived, or taken advantage of gave me a strange sense of peace. Every time I guided someone through a difficult choice, I remembered that I had survived my own storm. I also reconnected with friends I had neglected, people who had always supported me, quietly, without judgment. Their laughter and stories reminded me that life existed outside the walls of my house, outside the grip of Mark's deception. Most importantly, I started saying no more often. Not rudely, not angrily, just firmly. No to compromise, no to manipulation, no to letting anyone diminish my worth again. Every small no built my confidence back, brick by brick. One afternoon, I was clearing out a drawer and found the ring box again. I held it, feeling the weight of what it represented: pain, betrayal, heartbreak, but also clarity, resilience, and strength. I smiled faintly, not because of Mark, not because of the betrayal, but because I had endured it, I had faced it, and I had come out the other side. That evening, I sat at my desk with a cup of tea, looking out at the sunset. I whispered softly, more to myself than anyone else. Life isn't perfect. People aren't perfect. But we can choose to rise above what breaks us. I had learned that the hard way. I had survived a life hidden in lies. I had faced betrayal at its most intimate level. And I had healed. Healing wasn't about erasing the past. It was about reclaiming the present. And I finally felt ready to embrace it fully, without fear, without deception, without compromise. The house was mine now. My life was mine now. My story was mine now. And I knew, deep in my heart, that nothing could ever take that away from me again. As I sit here, looking out at the sunset spilling gold across the sky, I can't help but reflect on everything that happened. The betrayal, the lies, the secret life my husband built. It could have destroyed me, but it didn't. It hurt, yes, deeply. It shook the foundation of everything I thought I knew. But in facing the truth, in confronting the lies, in reclaiming my own voice, I found something far more valuable than anything I ever had in that marriage: myself. Life will always have moments of heartbreak. People will let us down, sometimes in ways we never imagine. But we have a choice: to let it break us or to rise from it, stronger, wiser, and more certain of our worth. I can't promise that the path after betrayal is easy. Healing takes time. Forgiveness may not come immediately. Trust must be rebuilt, sometimes from scratch. But it can be done. And even in the darkest moments, there's always a chance for clarity, dignity, and renewal. I want to ask you, dear viewer,